Our speaker today is Todd Saylor. He is a hard-working CEO who is passionate about excellence and commitment. And he's committed to achieving any task and possesses a unique vision in his industry that rolls over into others. He's an accomplished, nationally renowned, and successful pioneer in his business niche, and he has been for over 20 years. He's transferred a highly competitive college athletics background into entrepreneurial life. This is really cool, guys. He's figured out how to do it. He came out of corporate into his own entrepreneurial space in 2003 and is kicking it. After graduating and all of the history, which I promised I would not read, what's really important, he works tirelessly, and I do mean that. He works tirelessly to expand, improve, and ensure that his businesses, here we go, here's a goal, guys, remain the most flexible, scalable, and technologically advanced companies in his industry. It's a pretty good goal. Yeah. So, to share how he got to where he is and where he's going next, Mr. Todd Saylor.
Am I on, Al? Okay, so we're going to do this maybe a little different. What a nice introduction. I really appreciate that. Dave was originally supposed to introduce me, and he said, okay, come on and speak. We got to talk about all these things, and we're going to do this and do that, and I'll be there, and then he calls at the last minute, and he's in St. Pete, and he says, I got Jackie. No worries about Jackie. So I show up here. Jackie introduces herself out in the parking lot. I think she wanted to see what I looked like before she let me in the room. And so we went through that program, and we sat down, and I'm so confused. He said this was a young entrepreneurial society, and so I'm concerned about that a little bit. I'm 50. Come on, I'm 50, and I'm looking around. I'm thinking, these people got it going on, and I walk in here, and then I hear all these rules. I'm concerned about all the rules. Is there a test afterward? There's no test, I hope. And then she sits me down and she says, I'm a stress management person. And she takes my hand and she starts pressing on my hand. Dude, you gotta be loose. So I feel better already. So I want to let you know I'm stress-free right now. I'm stress-free right now. So what I did was I picked up 5 topics that I would throw out here, and we would do this in an interview format. And Jackie's going to throw some questions at me. And the 5 things I would like to talk about, but I know we won't have time, is I want to empower you. I want you to feel good about what you're doing and the decisions you're making in life. Because after all, aren't we wired differently? We're wired differently. And until we understand that we're different than most people, we can't be who we want to be. I think most of us are trapped in this understanding of entrepreneurial ideas that we're like everyone else. And so until we understand that John was not and is not like other people, he can't raise to the level of what he needs to do, because most people aren't thinking at the level we are, especially in our niche. That's the word she chose for me. So we're going to have to guess at what my niche is. So here's the 5 things that I really think I'm passionate most about. One topic is leadership that she's going to ask me about. We may not get through the whole morning with just leadership. Secondly is adversity. Third is perspective. Perspective is huge. Fourth is love. And last but not least is endurance. So before we get started this morning, we start bouncing some questions off. I want you guys to tell me, what is an entrepreneur? Because if we don't know what we are, we can't be what we want to be. So what is the definition of an entrepreneur? Right here.
Hold it. I'll run the microphone.
All right. She's in charge.
Yo.
Well, one of my roofers told me when I was in the construction business, he said, you know what an entrepreneur is? I'm an entrepreneur. I said, no, what's an entrepreneur? He says, well, it's somebody that nobody else will hire, so they went out and went into business for themselves.
He's right. We don't get along with everybody right away. Maybe so.
Someone who follows their dreams.
Someone who follows their dreams. Okay. And there's some wisdom behind this, because, Al, we were on the radio the other day, weren't we? And the first thing Dave did after he said hello was he picked a fight with me, didn't he? He picked a fight with me, and he said, what do you think an entrepreneur is? I said, well, and then he proceeded to tell me what an entrepreneur was, and so I had to go along with it, right, Al? All right, anybody else? What's an entrepreneur?
Independent thinker.
Ooh, independent thinker. So far, so good.
A blaze trail person.
A trailblazer.
Yes.
I like that. I'll take as many as we got because I'm learning.
Someone who can think outside of the box no matter what is in front of them.
Right. Totally agree. Any more? This one right here. He's got one. Okay.
A risk taker.
A risk taker. Anybody else? Over here. I like this guy. Hey, by the way, you have got great hair.
Thank you.
I love it, man.
See, Gary? Ideally, it's somebody who, a couple of things, they are comfortable with control. They want to follow their dreams, and they want to engage their passion.
So would you say that you're following that definition?
I'm not working right now, so amen. But no,
You're killing me.
I'm on the path.
You're on the path.
Yes.
Okay, so what's your dream?
What is my dream? My dream is to use my God-given talents to better the world, better people. It sounds corny, trite.
Well, you know what? If you
Yeah.
can't say it, you can't do it.
No.
Okay, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Okay, any other comments? Because I think it's important. I think it's important that everybody in here understands that you're special, that you're wired differently. When you get up in the morning, you think different than most people in this world. And the first thing you have to admit to yourself is that you're different and that you're going to treat yourself different because you're in charge of your future and your destiny, and the people that you bring along with you are going to help you realize those things, and you're going to help them realize their dreams too. So an entrepreneur is all the things that everybody said in here. But the thing I want you to take, if you don't get anything from me this morning, what's your name?
Joshua.
Joshua, if you don't get anything from me this morning or afternoon, you're going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to say, honey, are you married? Okay. If you had a wife, you would say, honey, or a girlfriend. I'm wired differently. I don't go to corporate America. I don't go punch in a time clock. I wasn't made that way. And so once we realize that, then we can go on to the next step. What the next step is, you can't execute a plan if you don't have one. Who said that? Damn right. Yes, it's exactly right. You can't execute a plan if you don't have one. Have you ever accomplished something tremendous without having a plan? What's your name? John.
Absolutely not. You got to have a plan.
I mean, and if you had, it was a Powerball ticket more than likely. But most entrepreneurs don't buy Powerball tickets. See, I know that about you people. We are counting on ourselves. You can't execute a plan if you don't have one. All right? So leadership. I want to talk a little bit more about leadership. When you get up in the morning, you say to yourself, oh, I wonder what the world's going to bring to me today. I think some of us are in that position. I think some of us are in that position. More than likely, we don't want to be in that position, but we have to get focused. Leadership. So if we have a plan and we plan on executing it, we've got to go for it. The next thing I would tell you about a plan or a dream is do one thing great. So give me some ideas. I met a nice man back here. This is your first time here, so I feel perfectly comfortable picking on you. Are you going to come back? Okay, yeah, I love your barber. So you're in real estate, correct? Jackie, I'm supposed to be back here, right? I don't want Jackie mad at me. Tell me what you do.
Other than the obvious selling houses, also in with my wife through the investment end, and I own a remodeling company. So we try to handle all the aspects of everything that has to do with real estate as far as getting it, for an investor's point of view, getting it remodeled, getting it ready to market and get it sold.
Okay, so you've got a couple different things that you're doing, auctioneer, real estate. You said you flip houses too? I didn't
The remodel side.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So before you could really propel into any of these other ventures, you did one thing great. You became maybe a realtor, maybe an auctioneer. What did you do first?
First was a realtor.
Okay. So you had some success in real estate.
Yes.
And so you were an entrepreneur in that fashion that you reached out and let me ask you a question. That's the piece. Is the act of being a realtor your entrepreneurial dream, or is the vision of what you're trying to accomplish from the plan that you want to execute, is that your entrepreneurial side?
Probably the vision.
Okay. Is that good? Does someone get that? That's the piece. It just hits me, when we sit here and we think about this as human beings and leaders, is entrepreneurs are wired differently. His job was real estate. His entrepreneurial side is, how do I make something more out of it? How do I do something better than everyone else? How do I put a little bit different spin on it that makes me different? Because none of us can really break away from the pack until we have that aha moment that says, I'm going there, I'm going there, I'm going there, I'm going there. Did I say it? I'm going there. I got a few bumps. But he did one thing great, which catapulted him to his vision. My success story, if you will, is always in motion. I became the most successful salesperson in the planet. Just ask me. Right? Just ask me. Ask me if I was. Say, were you the most successful man in the planet?
Were you the most successful man on the planet?
Yes, sir, I was. Thank you for asking that question. I was really good at sales, and I found out that I could sell. I didn't start out in sales, but I found out that I had the gift of persuasion. So let's talk about that for a second. Persuasion is a gift. It's an entrepreneurial gift. But the harnessing of persuasion is about 2 M's. How many of you in here realize you have the gift of persuasion? You have to be brave about it. It's not a bad thing. Every one of you, just by getting up this morning, has the gift of persuasion. So let me challenge you this. When you have the gift of persuasion and you use it for good, it's called motivation. If you have the gift of persuasion and you use it for bad, I don't know you, I don't think you're using it for bad, it's called what? Dude, you are smart. Manipulation. Those are the 2 M's. And so while we're just talking about being wired differently, we have to harness our own gifts. We have to realize again that we're wired differently. We have to realize again that we get up differently. We have to realize again that we're just different type of people, and it's all good. And we have this gift of persuasion, and we're right down the middle, but all of a sudden we have a choice. Am I going to use my gift to motivate, or am I going to use my gift to manipulate? And I can promise you right now, if you use your gift for manipulation, you will fail. Every time. And every time you use your gift for motivation, you will catapult your vision exponentially. You may not feel it the first time or the second time, but that is the kind of karma entrepreneurs live by. Does that make sense? Please take that with me. We're wired differently, and we use our persuasions constructively. Jackie, I'm out of the forum here, and I'm just rattling on, and I had this leadership thing I got in my head, and I'm spinning it out. I hope I'm making sense and resonating with some of you. Do you have any quick questions about some of the things I've just said? I appreciate your comment back there, and I didn't mean to derail you, but I really think the first time I met you, sir, you had it. You had a great spirit about you. Your eyes were very, very connecting to me, and you weren't afraid to say hello, and I really appreciate that. This young man over here, he connected with me when I walked in, and I want to really appreciate that. You, sir, I've seen you before. I'm scared to death of you. John, thanks for shaking my hand when I walked in. All of you have been very nice when I walked in. I want to tell you, this is a very fun group. Very fun group. You're special. You're wired differently. Any quick questions on that?
I love the confidence. My question outside of that would be, what makes you that person? I don't,
Okay. What's your name again, sir?
I'm Clayton.
Clayton, let's get one thing clear. I did not say I was the most successful man in the planet. I was one of the most successful salesmen at a period in my mind. You're exactly right. So the question again is what? I want to make sure that I don't have lightning strike me.
What makes you that successful salesperson?
Well, I think that the whole thing back to persuasion, the gift of persuasion. And I've always operated by this idea is the more difficult it is, the more I thrive. So, you know, you take this very situation with the government, okay? I don't think anyone in this room is happy 100% with our government. But they continue to evoke legislation and rules on my industry. And this all goes back to perspective. So I can sit back and say, this is redonkulous. Why do they keep doing this stuff to me? Why do they keep making things more difficult? How are we all going to ever keep up with that? The ACA, the ADA, all these things in our... Does anybody feel overwhelmed as a business owner? Absolutely. So let's flip the perspective. Let's be the best students possible at this endeavor. The more difficult they make it on us, the more opportunity there is for the person who has the legs. I got the legs. No one's going to stand longer than me. My dad told me this a long time ago. He said, son, listen, you may think you're strong, you may think you're all these things, but guess what? There's always someone bigger, faster, stronger, and smarter. You believe that? Yes. Yes, sir. You do. And that is the truth. So what separates an entrepreneur like you from the rest of the world realizing that you're wired different? We have the legs. We have the heart. We have the passion. When we get up, no one's going to stop us. Sometimes we're depressed. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been in a ball wondering why it didn't work. There's no shame in that. There's no shame in that because we're wired differently. We go so hard at things that sometimes when they don't work, we can't understand our own flaws and our body reacts. But the difference is we uncoil. We get back up the next day and we figure it out. I want you to walk out of here today realizing how special you are. Okay? Because it's not going to work immediately all the time. But the difference is the fact that we continue to get up. So if you go back to your question with me, and I'm not trying to be pious, and I'm not trying to be arrogant, I'm just going to tell you, you're not going to beat me. You're just not going to beat me. You'll work with me. I'll work with you. I'm just not going to be beat. We can redirect. We can do things, but we're going to have to get the perspective right. Sometimes our perspective is wrong. You know, I got a quick story about that, and I'm going to get a little God on you right here. You know, let's go back to the part where you're just feeling down and you're not around, you feel like you just can't make things work. And I was in one of those doldrums about, oh my goodness, probably 8 years ago. And I was driving through Cleveland. Anybody ever been in Cleveland? That's enough sometimes just to make you depressed. And it was, you know, and it was before I lived here in Florida. And 80%, what's your name? Chris. 80% of my life up north was clouds and rain, and it wasn't sunny. And so one of the reasons we moved here was because of this, and the business continued to grow. But I was driving down this road, and it was raining, and it was just a nasty day. And I said, God, I just need a sign. I don't know if anyone's ever just, even if you believe in something other than our God, you know, just give me a sign. You know, give me an epiphany. I know I can turn this thing around. I know I'm thinking squarely. Just make the clouds part. Make the sunshine come out, and then I'll know I'm on the right course. Raise your hand if you've ever done anything a little bit like that. Have a deer run in front of my car. Have someone smile at me. Anything, God, just say hello to me. So I was in one of those epiphany moments, and I needed to see God show up. I needed a sign, a wonder, an amazement. And I went on, and then all of a sudden, you know, we always change the rules. Well, okay, well, maybe not right now. Maybe not down the road. But no, this was one I was firm on. And I was driving down the road, and instead of the clouds parting and the sun coming out, the clouds got worse. It got darker. And it got rainier. I couldn't see anything. And I'm like, God, really? But then I turned the corner as I came down the street. And I looked to my left and I looked to my right. And the rain was so, you know, so thick I could barely see. But there it was, a billboard. And the only thing on that billboard was a big image of the sun. You know, and so I don't know why that gets me, but we need perspective. Sometimes we look in the wrong places for the things that we want because that's all we see. Our perspective needs to be clear, that we can have perspective on other things. When we're looking, even in God in this example, for Him the way we want Him, it's not that way. It's the way He wants us. Sometimes we're so full of our own vision that we're not able to step back and be the true leader that we've been called to be and look at the perspective. You ask Steve Jobs, you ask any of these leaders, every now and then we're just not right. And perspective is one of the key components of being a strong, strong leader. Did I answer your question while I was preaching there, my friend? Okay. Jackie, you want to help me get back on track here a little bit?
Absolutely, because that is my job. So when you're talking about leadership, the difference between saying, follow me, and I'll go first.
Yeah. I think that's a great, and I'll give you a good lesson on that. My father was a great football coach, and he was an entrepreneur in his own right. Entrepreneurs are, someone in here said, are risk takers. I think all business owners are risk takers. I think entrepreneurs are someone that's willing to go maybe just a different notch in a different direction that's maybe not as proven. You know, I'm not going to fight Dave on that one or Al. But if you listen to the radio show, it was a good little spar. Entrepreneurs are just a little more special. You know, and I'm just going to say it out loud. You know, you can buy a franchise with all of the things proven in it and mitigate some of your risk, and I think that's a good path for a lot of people. An entrepreneur is the guy or the woman or the person who says, I like that franchise concept, but I have another idea. Okay? It's my idea. I got it somewhere. I really believe in it. And let's go take it. Okay? So without an argument there. What was the actual question?
The actual question was simply to speak to the difference between a leader saying, follow me, and a leader saying, I'll go first.
He was a donut maker. Thank you, Jackie. He was a donut maker and a football coach. And so he made donuts. And he told me, he said, son, do one thing great. Be a good donut maker. So I became a very good donut maker. I became a good football player. I did one thing great. But he told me, he said, before you can be a great donut maker, you got to learn how to scrape floors. So I got on the floor, and I had a scraper, and I would scrape that floor day in and day out. I would wash the dishes. I would do whatever my dad said because I couldn't take people where I wasn't willing to go. I strongly felt that. And I think that's another characteristic of an entrepreneur. Some business people feel entitled to a title. Entrepreneurs dig in because they can't own a solution until they create the solution in many, many regards. Now, I am not the be-all, end-all or the finite entrepreneurial judge. I'm just giving you my opinion. So the question of the separation is, I find it much easier to lead in areas that I've been able to almost conquer myself. Now, a great leader is the first one to tell you that they can't do everything. But when you're an entrepreneur and you're on that initial level of the IPO or the breakout of your idea, you better get your tail in there and you better get dirty. You better get dirty.
So I'm going to bring you back to one of the things that you told me that you had some experience in that you thought would be useful for people to hear, and that's the concept of adversity.
Adversity. Yeah, I think adversity, and I'd like to talk about adversity because iron sharpens iron. And I think everybody's getting me in here, and I really appreciate that. You are not a complete person until you raise a daughter. Did I just say that? I have no idea why I said that. Oh, adversity. That's what it was. Adversity. You have that daughter. Well, I have 3 daughters. You have 3 also, sir? How did you keep all that hair? Did you really? I want your doctor. I want your doctor. Adversity. you are not going to be who you're intended to be until you take on some adversity. Leadership doesn't come with a free pass. Leadership doesn't come with attaboys. Leadership doesn't come with yes people. Leadership doesn't come without failure. Leadership doesn't come without epic, epic proportions of pain. I'm telling you this because I live it every day. So without adversity, you can't be respected. I can't even stand up here and pretend to be who I am without adversity.
That's probably going to lead right into our next question, which is about endurance.
Well, endurance is the close. I think you skipped love. Was that on purpose?
What's love got to do with it,
What's
Todd?
love got? Well, since you're in charge, Jackie, what do you want me to talk about first?
Answer the question.
Endurance.
What's love got to do with it, Todd?
Well, I think love is the overriding theme to life. And whether you want to look at love as a personal thing between you and your spouse or your children or your pets, that's one thing. But I think those are the places you learn love for your employees, or for your understanding of failure, or for your understanding of ideas. And love in many ways equals compassion. And if you can't have compassion for other people, you're not going to be able to have the recouping compassion for yourself. Because adversity is inevitable. You have to love yourself. You have to believe in yourself. And at risk of being arrogant, that's the part I really fail at in most cases. I don't always love myself. That is the hardest thing for me to overcome. Because people won't follow someone who doesn't love themselves. People won't follow someone who can't have compassion for people falling down. Now, we have to make choices. When your idea makes it, and you're above 5, 6 employees, 30, 50 employees, you're going to have to make hard decisions. You're going to have to choose between this one and that one. But you can do it in a manner of love. You can do it in a matter of compassion, because that's what will bleed through your organization as you grow. And it's never too late to grow. It's never too late to love. It's never too late to be compassionate. And it's never, never, never too late to forgive. If you can forgive, you can love. And if you can love, you can succeed. Does that make sense? I beg you, I implore you to love somebody today. Whether it's in your organization, whether it's in your house, you will be a better person. You will be a much more successful person. You will be happier. Those things will pass through to your organizational thoughts. That's what love's got to do with it.
Sounds like a pretty complete answer. Anyone have a question about that one? All right. Now, you said forgiveness and love, and you've talked about adversity and perspective. The last piece that you said you thought somebody in this room might have a need to hear is about endurance.
Yeah, I think if you take everything that we've talked about, which went pretty quick, really, which was first was leadership. The second one was adversity. The third was perspective. The fourth we just briefly touched on, love. But you have to close with endurance. We talked about it earlier. Someone's always bigger, faster, stronger, smarter. Endurance is the separator. Endurance is the differentiator. Endurance is the complete measurement of the fulfillment of your task. Very few people have an idea and it just works. It wouldn't really be any fun, to be honest with you. My dad also told me, he said, it's the journey. You know, son, it's the journey. You've done things that I've only dreamed of. I can't believe you've done these things, and you've been able to work through these things, and how do you do this and that? He says, but don't forget one thing, that it's the journey. Because all of a sudden you wake up and you're 50. And you're 50. You're not 50. Someday you're going to be 50. And you're going to say, I'm 50. 50's all right. But it's that journey, you know, and I wasted so much energy and so much worrisome. I wasted so much stress. I forgot most of the journey that I could have learned so much quicker from. So when I want to talk to you about endurance, I want you to completely understand that the biggest gift any entrepreneur has is to close. And you can't close if you don't have endurance. Because closing is a process. Closing is a setup. Closing is a byproduct of everything we just talked about. You can't have a plan executed if you don't have one. You can't close it. You can't set up piece by piece by piece. An entrepreneur works backwards. An entrepreneur says, I got this great idea. It's going to make lots of money. It's going to make everybody happy. It's going to solve the world's problems. How do we get there? He doesn't know. He doesn't know. He has to have endurance. He has to fight through his own weaknesses. He has to fight through the fact that he has no operational skill sets whatsoever. He's a persuader. He has to figure these things out. And what happens is trial and error. Get up, pick up your feet, put one foot in front of the other, quit crying, go love somebody, and keep on keeping on. Thank you very much. I appreciate everything this evening.
Well, I hope you've got some space for some Q&A, so feel free to hang out in the middle.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so we have had quite a journey all the way through from love to, actually, from leadership down to endurance. And we have some time that we can devote to questions. So if you are an entrepreneur and you have had a challenge in one of those 5 areas, leadership, adversity, perspective, love, or endurance, ask a question. Todd will be very happy to help you move forward where you're stuck. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're stuck in any one of those areas or have been stuck in any one of those 5 areas recently, raise your hand, I'll bring you the mic. I've got a volunteer. All right, I got 2. So
I want to, before he says something, Jackie, I want everyone to understand what I do. Do people know what I do? Okay. I own a nationwide payroll solution called PayServe Systems. My first organizational attempt was a failure. I built donut shops. And it wasn't completely a failure, but I ended up with one, and I persuaded a guy to give me the building, and then I persuaded the people to give me free product, and that went very well. And then someone came in and persuaded me to sell, and I wouldn't sell, and then we did this collage of he owned buildings and I ran the companies, and it was a mess. And instead of going bankrupt, I dissolved my organization. It took me 4 years to pay back some people. My wife had a car accident, unfortunately, and we got a settlement, and that was one way we were able to pay back the IRS. I went into sales. I sold the product that I was getting out of as far as donut products and commodities, and figured out I could sell my way out of this. And I worked on commission only. I'm giving you the fast track version. My wife got into payroll. She's a brilliant woman. And it was a budding PEO, which is a professional employee organization. Anybody know what that is? I built the second publicly traded PEO from 1994 to 2000. I didn't feel that aligned with my moral compass in all directions, and I got out of that, and I decided to build a company called PayServe System, which is pay is payroll and serve is how Christ led the church. And we kept the service model of the professional employee organization, but we got rid of the business model. And we were able to do it for $1.50 a check or something like that. And we're all over the country now. And it's because I kept getting up. It's because we kept going forward. It was 4 steps forward, 10 steps back, 2 steps, whatever that formula is. We just kept going. So that's a little bit about all that, you know, you guys, that was a completely impromptu message. It's me. So you got that. And so I'm grateful for that. So the question, I think you should understand that, you know, just because I get up here and I can speak doesn't mean I'm qualified to speak. So I wanted to give you a little bit of my background. And you can Google me, Todd Saylor, and there's lots of stuff for nighttime laughs. Okay, what's the question?
After meeting several successful entrepreneurs, I got one question I like to ask every one of them, and it's amazing the different answers I get. When it's time to defrag, to keep from blowing the fuse, your opinion, when is the best time to defrag, in the morning or late in the evening after the day?
Well, clearly mine is in the gym and it's in the evening.
So the next question was right here.
Thank you for sharing, Todd. That was great, by the way.
Wow, that's nice to hear. Thank you, sir. What's your name?
Hank Zampa.
Hank.
Right. From what I read, most everything rises and falls on leadership. And it's a very important topic, maybe expand on a little bit. And from what I gather about leadership is that individual who has a vision, who is able to transmit it to others where they can become involved in it and becomes part of them, becomes a passion with them, so they will follow that leader. Because a leader with nobody following them is no leadership at all. So
Yes.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think you said a mouthful there, Hank. Okay, I'm gonna give you my opinion, and I think I'm right, but it doesn't mean other opinions are wrong. So I'm gonna give you leadership is an attitude. Leadership really isn't always doing. Leadership isn't always any one thing. But if leadership is one thing and one thing only, it's always attitude. So Hank, if you get up in the morning and you have this perseverance passion, and you have this great idea, but you fall short on operations, and you fall short on finance, and you fall short on all those other reasons, and you fall short on wisdom, that doesn't mean you're not a great leader, Hank. You're a great leader because an attitude of a leader is, how do I get this done? Search it out. You know, the level of a company can only, get this, the level of a company can only rise to the level of its greatest weakness. So the leader's job is to articulate his greatest weakness and the entity's greatest weakness. Because you could have the best sales department, you could have the most money in the world, but if you don't have someone that can make the widget, you're stuck. So you got to figure out how to get that widget done. So Hank, great question. Attitude. Attitude, baby. Attitude, attitude, attitude. Know it, think it, believe it, get it done.
Coming up.
She's got the mic.
All right. What really struck me is the model when you were talking about, you look at a corporation that's doing something, but you don't want to be in that same box, and so you take the model and you bring it to a small business that you make all the decisions. But the question is how they can attract it through their website, through people knowing about them because it's a well-named industry, where ours is more not as well named. So how do you just get the word out to attract business is my question.
First thing, do it better, okay? Do it better. And I'm not gonna pretend I didn't invent payroll, okay? I just made it better. So I know my number one competitor. I'm not even going to say him. I'm not even going to give him the credit. I'm not even going to talk about ADP. I'm not going to talk about those guys. But I do it better. So I, first of all, make sure it's clear it's better and why it's better. I'm not saying they're a bad entity. They're a great organization. I just have my niche. And so what I want you to understand is you took your idea like I took my idea and we spun it just a little bit. And you were struggling on a word in there, and I wanted to help you with that word. You made it a little more relevant, Okay, that's the word I think you're looking for. That's the word I was looking for. I made it a little more relevant. So I picked my niche that it was relevant to. Okay? And so then I architected a plan to attack where mine was relevant compared to theirs not relevant. And you know how I did it? One at a time. It's okay. You don't have to have brand. You're not hung up on money. You're an entrepreneur. You know, that's the perspective I want everyone to understand. Did you get what just happened there? It's okay, one deal at a time. It's okay. You know the win is going to come down the road and money will follow. Entrepreneurs are more about the idea and the success of the idea, not as much as that we have a gravy train right away. One deal at a time. A more relevant process or product, one deal at a time. They add up quicker than you can imagine, and then you reinvest that revenue. It's the only way to do it, friend.
One thing I've noted in the past 8 or 10 years here with this group, there's a lot of people that fly by the seat of their pants. There's a lot
Amen to that. All right, fly the seat of your pants. Let's hear it. High five. Yeah!
There's a lot of folks here that did not have a business plan, including me, and I've had 2 businesses, and they've been fairly successful in their own right. I am now trying to bring in a consultant into my business right now to design that plan so I have a little bit more of an exit strategy in 10 or 12 years to become a little bit more of a systems guy. I think I would have failed miserably in franchises because their systems are so tremendous. But I don't think it would have worked for me in the initial stages. I'm trying to put it into place right now. I think my question to you is, but I don't think everybody that has to start with a plan necessarily. You do have to start with, if you're willing to put a lot of hard work into your particular business, you can grow that business. I don't think not having a plan should prevent you from going out there and doing the deal.
Let me tell you something. You're right on. Most of us don't have a clear plan, but we all have a plan. Most of us maybe didn't write it down or hire someone to do a 5-point business plan. I'm guilty. My first business plan for PayServe Systems, which we're in 48 states now, we've overcome many market spaces. We've just done unbelievable things. I drew up on the back of a Bob Evans placemat, and it was arrows and boxes and graphs. So that's probably not a business plan to you, but it is a business plan. It's probably the same type of business plan you had. You know, the plan was to do this, and I was going to get there somehow. So most ideas are the budding business plans. The thing you touched on that I want you to completely understand is systems. Systems will separate your plan from a dream to a success. You have to be able to chart systems. You have to be able to make whatever you're doing replicable, whether it's internally or externally, depending on what the product is. If it's not replicable, it's more than likely just going to be a job the rest of your life. You'll own that job, but it's probably going to just be a job. The difference between a successful entrepreneurial businessman, a successful entrepreneurial business person, man or woman, is the ability to replicate it without your involvement. Okay? If you can't get it to that point, it's going to more than likely be a job. And it's okay. But everyone in this room doesn't want a job. They want an idea to succeed. Something that will be their legacy. Something that will be replicatable. Something their children, their grandchildren, or a group that you can pass on through time. Those are the things that are memorable. Those are the things that are legacy building. Those are the things that this type of group that's wired differently is all about. So I hope I gave you some direction on that thought. You're doing a great job. You're doing a great job. And the fact that you recognize that you need an exit strategy is a sign of a very successful individual. Yeah.
Thank you for what you've shared with us today. Before you answer the question, which is, who are your mentors? Who do you use as a sounding board? What strikes me is much of what you've said today revolves around the word belief. Belief in your plan, endurance, belief that you are the world's best salesman. And my question is this, is that everything you say I think is very admirable, absolutely on the right track. How do you know when endurance isn't being overutilized and all you're doing is just digging a deeper hole, and that really the premise of whatever your mission is flawed? You're going to fail. How do you get out of your way and ask somebody, am I on the right track? This is what I'm running up against.
I'm married.
Oh, now that's a shortcut. That is not fair.
That was a good one, right?
Hold it. What he was asking for was about your mentors,
No.
not...
She tells me, enough. She starts beating me senseless.
I don't think your wife is going to want to fulfill that role for Tony.
Well, not for Tony. She might. Yeah, she might. Well, I think that, you said something almost offensive, and so when you said it, you taught me something at the moment, and so I guess I don't have an answer for you. And what's your name? No, I mean, it's a positively offensive thing, and you said something about failure, and you lost me after that. I failed many times, and I'm just trying to say, there is a point where you're out of money, okay? It doesn't mean your idea is not good, It just, I invented what I perceived as the very first GPS driver text lock unit. And I spent about $80,000 to $100,000 with this amazing idea. It was just so brilliant. How could it not work? And so I hired an app engineer, a great guy, Terry Lewis, and I said, I want my phone to shut off when the GPS recognizes it's going over 5 miles an hour, and I want parental locks on it, and I want a 911 button, and we created this most awesome app called GPS Driver Text Lock. And I was on my way to Gecko and talked to them, and my whole point was to keep myself and my children from texting and driving. And it worked great. I got on a Droid, and we made it work, and I'm an Apple guy. And it worked perfectly. We drive down the road. I got over 5 miles an hour. It locked up. But it had the location devices and everything. And my idea was to sell it to Gecko and say, hey, listen, we're tracking people running up and down these roads. And if they sign up for this app for free, you'll deduct $200 from their car insurance. And if they have an accident and we realize that the phone was on, then you get your $200 back. I mean, it's flawless, right? Find a hole in that.
The passenger could be texting.
I fixed that. There was a bypass for that. Find a hole in that.
I don't want you knowing what I'm doing.
Then you could opt out of that.
You don't have to download the app.
Okay. So I guess my point is, it was perfect. But Apple didn't like it. Apple wanted it. So $100,000 down the drain, and it was me against Apple. Did I fail? No, I didn't fail. I didn't prepare for that. So I don't have an answer for you. I just want you to know that you're normal. And failure is the thing that motivates most of us to be different, to be wired different. Our biggest fear in life is failure. I can talk to 100 different rooms, and I'm not going to be this room, and you're going to tell me I'm scared to death to fail. And that's okay. You can plan for it all you want. The bottom line is get up and don't do it.
All right, I'm going to come back to the last question and ask you for 3 names, either a book or a person that have influenced your life. What book or person would you consider to have pulled you forward?
Rocky Balboa. All right. What's that? He's real to me, baby. You're a downer.
I didn't say it
Get
had
off
to be
Rocky
real,
Balboa.
Tony. Okay, 2 more.
Okay, so real quick on Rocky Balboa. I have 3 daughters. I made every one of my daughters watch 1, 2, and 3 before they were 10 years old. It was a prerequisite of my life. I did something, you know. Okay, so what was I got that Rocky Balboa. You want 3 people?
It's okay. I get it. Your mentors are personal to you. We're going to run out of time, so people who want to know more about his mentors and influential books can get with him after the fact. We're out of time. I apologize. So you'll stay around for people to talk to you?
Absolutely.
And he does have an offer.
Yeah, I want to let you guys know, and this is purely speculative. I want to learn from you. So I don't know if as much as an offer as it's a gift from you to me. If there's any time, I'm going to hand out my business cards, and you want to get in touch with me in the next couple weeks, I'd like to have coffee with you. I'd like to hear about your organizational ideas. I'd like to hear what motivates you. I'd like to be able to share some thoughts with you if I have anything relevant to tell you. And so this is a good way for me to get involved in this community and meet special people who are wired differently. Thank you very much.
Last week, somebody came to my, asked me for a $500,000 loan for his business. So I went out and tried to find somebody for him. And I found one that I thought would work, and they turned him down because they only make $5 million loans and higher. So, but he referred me to another person, and I think we got it connected. The reason I'm bringing this up is that this group has a depth in it that you don't always realize. It's amazing the amount of people in here, that how innovative they are, and make things work. So keep coming. Bring some friends next week. Yes, the answer is always yes!